we don't need to pay cash for anything except maybe tips here and there. There's certain websites like plastic.com that you can pay your bills, your mortgages with credit cards. And if you use the right credit cards, it will actually cover the fees plus some. So you get the protection plus you get reward points, and that adds up. There's many ways to do it, but yeah, we've purchased properties with cash that we liquidated from our credit cards. We complete all of our remodels the same. Yeah, we've done hard money lending as well.
Welcome, everyone, to the Casandra Properties Podcast. We have a very special guest for you today. Brandon Elliott's joining us. He's a real estate investor, podcast host, author, international speaker, credit specialist, really interesting platform. And we're going to get into the whole spectrum with him today. We're going to really drill down and drive a lot of value, I think, on the credit side of his business. So folks, I would ask you to pay close attention there. I think Brandon has a lot to offer. So with that, let's welcome him here. Brandon, thanks for joining us today.
James, how are you? I appreciate you guys for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're doing good, man. All things considered in this crazy world.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
something new every day, right?
It is, man. Like, I don't know how we got here. And it seems like just yesterday, you know, we were building, you know, our scalable, you know, platform for the next year, and things were rolling along. And then just like that, here we are. Crazy.
Yeah. Hey, every day is another day. You know, it's a blessing, which is great.
Yeah.
So I'm
Amen.
excited.
We've got our health, right?
That's right. That's right.
So you've got quite a platform. You've got an amazing following. Before we get into the nitty gritty and the details, the audience often likes to hear background. So if you can talk to the audience a little bit about your childhood and you know, how you ended up where you are today, influences and the such.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't know how deep the audience really wants to hear the truth behind it, honestly. You know, I grew up in New Jersey. I grew up with a single parent mother. She was manic depressive bipolar, or at least diagnosed that. And so it was a little crazy growing up. You know, I didn't meet my father until I was 18 in court so he could stop paying child support.
Wow.
I was the middle child. I had an older sister, I still do, older sister and a younger sister. And we grew up like American poor. And I say that because, you know, we were still so blessed. We had help from the government, obviously, as well as the schools and churches. But yeah, at a very young age, I realized, like, you know, a lot of my friends had dirt bikes, quads, and just had certain things. And I was like, you know, I want these things too. And after asking my mom so many times in a row at a young age, and you could just see the look on her face, like, hey, I can't help you with this. You know, I realized at a young age, like, I have to go out there and make the opportunities come to myself. And, you know, it wasn't going to be handouts for my mom. So at age 12, I got my first job. Shortly after that, high school starts coming around. You got pretty girls, bad influence friends, and a bunch of other things, and started smoking weed, unfortunately. And that took me down a stupid path because I was broke enough to know that, like, I can't afford it, but smart enough to realize, like, okay, well, I like this stuff. I need to be the one in my group of friends, my influence, to be able to, like, sell it to them so I can smoke for free. Really bad concept. So this kind of spun out of control because I kept on taking whatever I made from it because I wasn't used to spending money, and I would just go back to the guy that I bought it from and see how much I could get then, you know, Stupid but smart at the same time. And long story short, I ended up developing a bad name for myself in my area. I had cops looking for me, best friends turning their backs on me because of greed and money and all these things. And so I ended up moving away from all that chaos out to San Diego. Ended up finding myself in more trouble, just stupid things. I had an explosion in my apartment making hash oil.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, man, it was crazy, really crazy stuff. I ended up finding myself they put me into an induced coma for 7 days.
Oh my
I was
God.
in the hospital for 3 weeks. I went through 3 surgeries. I burnt 40% of my body, 3rd degree. So I had to get skin graft on my arms and on my legs. So it was crazy. And then I ended up getting a house arrest later on. you know, a lot of fines, a lot of fees and all that fun stuff. So long story short, you know, real estate, I knew that I needed something. Like if I was intelligent enough to do well in a bad industry, just misguided, maybe I could do something on the right side of the tracks that I didn't need to look over my shoulder for, and could do something that I felt proud about. And I'm just super blessed that real estate was the thing that kind of found me.
Well, first of all, I appreciate very much, and I know the audience will appreciate the candor. There seems to be a common thread and a common theme with us, you know, I call serial entrepreneurs, right? We're kind of like, you know, we all have in one way or another issues in our past and broken paths, and it helps you to relate to the audience because a lot of times we look at folks that have, you know, realized a measure of success as you have, and it's tough to relate. You know, it's great to hear. And again, I really appreciate you keeping it real because we've all got, you know, issues, and we've all, very few of us, I could tell you in my audience, you know, woke up with a silver spoon, and we've all had to kind of grit and grind and hustle and do what we had to do. So I think that's awesome that you shared that. One of the questions I had for you, and I think it ties directly in here, is being an entrepreneur. Is this something that you're born with? Is this something that is a product of our environment? How do you see it? How do you see becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I really see it as not necessarily something you're born with, but just like you said, like a product of your environment. If you want something bad enough, your personality type is going to shine through, right? Everybody's personality type is different. The way you react to things, the way you do certain things, it kind of just stems back to that. But if you want something bad enough, and you're confident in it, what it's going to take to get there, then I think almost anybody will switch up their type of personality a little bit. Like I'm more naturally introvert, like, and growing up, I felt more of a, like I was very active, but at the same time lazy. You know, I don't want to, if I had the opportunity to either stand and have a conversation or sit, I would sit every second I could. Just be, but eventually it's like you just push yourself out of the comfort zone, and I realized like I didn't want to be poor. I didn't want the stress over my head growing up of like not knowing if we were going to have enough for utilities or rent, and I saw my mom's stress, and it weighed a lot on me. So at a very young age, you know, she was encouraging me to stay home or whatever because of, you know, her disorders. At a young age, I realized I had to grow up a little sooner and make big boy decisions, you know, if I wanted a better life.
So what was it that triggered you? I mean, did you have any influences as you were younger that you kind of kept an eye toward, and it just, you know, as you grew up and you went through enough of the trials and the tribulations, you woke up one day and said I had enough? Or was there a moment? You know, what was it for you that was like, you know what, bro, I'm done with this life. I want more. I'm going to turn the page here. What was it that did it for you?
Yeah, I think originally it was getting into the negative stuff that I did in the beginning. It was really, I didn't want to be poor. Like I just wanted something better. Like one of the main things that I used to pray for and like really just wish was, you know, that we'd hit the lottery. When I was really young, I remember going outside playing basketball and hearing my mom talking about like, oh, big numbers in the lottery right now. And I would be like praying like, oh, you know, because that was our biggest problem at the time. Money. So I figured, hey, if we could clear up money problems, then life would be good, you know? And that took me down a bad path, unfortunately, but it also helped me realize that at a young age, like once I actually started making money, that money's not everything, you know, and there's a lot of troubles, you know, that actually come your way when money starts coming around.
Absolutely.
So it's that fine line, truthfully.
So here you are. You're an author. You've got a killer podcast. By the way, folks, at the end of the podcast, Brandon will tell you how to find his podcast, Ready, Set, Go, Real Estate Investing. It's upbeat. It's fresh. He's got great topics. He's got great guests. I really enjoy it very, very much.
I appreciate that.
you're enjoying an unbelievable measure of success. You've got 30,000 followers on Insta. You've got 29,000 downloads. You're 5-star rated. You're crushing it, man. So hats off to you. And yeah, amen.
Thank you.
Really good stuff. Let's get into the nuts and bolts. So the way I can see it, there's basically two main components of what you're doing now, and the podcasting and the books and all that stuff supports kind of the two motherships. For us, the mothership is Casandra Properties. Everything kind of flows through that company. For you, it appears to be real estate deals through the Burr method, which we'll get into, and credit. So I think it's important that folks understand, first of all, what the Burr method is. Essentially, for the listeners, it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. It's just the model of getting in with capital, putting it to work, stabilizing it, pulling your cash out, and deploying it again. Can you talk to the audience in a little bit more detail about that model, that strategy, how you've put it into action, and what your portfolio looks like? How successful have you been in deploying this?
Yeah, so I fell in love with it right away. As I started doing a bunch of research on all the different strategies out there, I realized there was quite a few, right? And I just got gravitated towards this one because, who doesn't like to get all their money back out at the end of the day and have little money into it, but it still cash flows, So I really fell in love with that strategy. We started picking up properties in the Midwest over in Ohio originally, because I tried for 2 years out here in San Diego when I was less educated. I was going against, real investors with all cash, no contingencies. So trying to keep up with that, I wasn't prepared yet. But yeah, we were picking up a couple here and there, all residential, multifamily, and yeah, I just fell in love with it. We were using credit in the beginning for a lot of our deals. So we purchased properties with, so I saved up $35,000 originally in cash from working 2 restaurant jobs, and that's all I had to play around with. But I ended up having a good amount of credit lines in my credit cards. So I used promotional deals that they had behind the table at 0% interest for 12 or 18 months to be able to complete the remodels. I purchased properties with credit cards, and then we do a cash out refinance at the end, and it cash flows. So originally we started off getting properties over in Ohio, and then now we've been, the last couple of years we've been doing fix and flips here locally, and then just decided last year, hey, we want to start doing the Burr strategy out here. The only way to make it work, we realized, is that, we need to basically do Airbnb to be able to get the income higher. So that's what we've been doing out here. We have a 4-plex, and then we just picked up a duplex locally that we're doing the remodel on currently. But we're actually going to add 2 ADUs in the back to make that a 4-plex as well. So we're very excited about all these, and have no money into it at the end of the day.
So I'm asking this for a very specific reason. How much in deal volume transactionally would you say you've gone through in your career? And for those who are listening and can't see, Brandon's remarkably young to have this level of success, folks. So I hope this serves as an inspiration for the listeners out there. Transactionally, how much volume would you say you've done?
Yeah, so we've done a little over 20 at this point.
20
as
what?
far as 20 transactions, so either holds or flips in the past.
And value, how much would you say value?
Yeah, so value, currently we're over a little bit over 3.5 million.
So from $35,000 that you saved working 2 jobs, and pulling your credit card lines, you've turned this into $3.5 million in transactional real estate. For the people out there who say all the time, I'd love to, but I wish I could, but I want to, but New York is a similar to San Diego, it's a remarkably high barrier of entry for deals.
Sure. Yep.
You know, the pricing here is tough and it's challenging. So the shift out to the Midwest makes sense. And for the benefit of the audience, I think it'd be really great if you could walk through for them. It's not as simple, right, as buying something in Ohio. You have to have infrastructure in place to be able to source the asset, provide you all the things you need to get that asset closed, and then get in, do the work, stabilize it, refi, cash it out. How did you build that network? And if you could just talk a little bit about that, I think it would serve as some inspiration to some of the folks out there that are looking to jump into the game coming out of coronavirus. I think one of the biggest takeaways is no matter how secure you thought you were, you just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And I think there's a lot of folks that are entrepreneurs at heart that were not pursuing an alternate path that are looking to do that now. So.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, we never know what tomorrow looks like, right? So you definitely want to be prepared. And I'm super blessed that I built up a rental portfolio first before, you know, I left my restaurant jobs and, you know, before I actually started pursuing like credit stuff and helping out more people for coaching. Yeah, you know, when it comes down to the different type of I'm sorry. The question again was.
Yeah, that's not you. I get the Tweety birds flying around my head, and like I get excited. Yeah,
I think
so
you got too carried away there.
Between the two of us, we need to get the birds out, and I'll go one question at a time. I apologize. So, I want to start investing. I've got, you know, 10, 20, 30, $50,000 I've cobbled together. I've begged, borrowed, and stealed. Now I want to go and I want to make a deal in Ohio, for example. Walk us through that network. How do you get the vendors in place? How did you do it?
Yeah. So it really just comes down to relationships. You know, I grew up in New Jersey, so I didn't have any relationships over in Ohio at the time. And I networked with anybody and everybody that I could. Same thing with out here in San Diego. You know, I reached out to all the real estate agents, the brokers over there, the lenders, Chamber of Commerce, the local schools, the police department I've talked to, you know, to see where the bad neighborhoods are, where should I stay away from. I really networked with as many people as I could, and I got their feedback, and I kind of used it as just to be able to connect more with the next relationship that I was building. And it really served me well over time. You know, I ended up getting a big list of properties, a big list of relationships as well before I even set foot in Ohio. And then by the time I went there, I had a big list to actually go through and do my due diligence on in person. And that was a whole different beast. Because when I was there, I quickly started, you know, checking things off, that pictures and certain recommendations of people, relationships. I realized, hey, maybe this wasn't a good relationship if they're guiding me in the wrong direction here. So that's, you know, the relationships have helped me tremendously. The only big difference over here and in San Diego in comparison to Ohio is the price difference.
Yep.
And that comes from like comfortableness. You know, the holding costs out here obviously are more expensive, but you know, at the end of the day, it's all numbers. So if you can have strong enough relationships to get the deal done and move quickly, then out here in San Diego, it's not going to hold you back. But for some reason, I just started over in Ohio because it made me feel more comfortable. The price points were cheaper.
It makes perfect sense. And, you know, today in the digital world where, you know, we harp on this all the time, there are so many tools in the toolbox now. There are so many different ways to connect with people. You know, it sounds like, though, your strategy, Brandon, was ground and pound, right? You put the time in, you build the book, you build the network, and from there, opportunities are born, right?
Yeah, and I wrote it all down. I had a big list of names, neighbors, like everybody that I could really connect with. and I always made notes of certain things so I could use it as a reference later on. And then once I name drop a couple different people, then they almost treat me like, I'm one of their neighbors or friends or family anyway, which is great.
I love it. I love it. I think with coronavirus and the impact it's had on particularly the small to mid cap banks, we're forecasting there to be a huge opportunity in the defaulted note space. So for the listeners, again, Brandon's laying it out for you. There is a pathway and a strategy. You don't need boatloads of money. Not that 35 or 50 grand is not a lot of money, because it is, but to punch into the real estate game, if you're willing to put the time in and you're willing to work those social networks, LinkedIn is an unbelievable resource. We have cultivated some amazing contacts through LinkedIn. You can start to get a good sense in some of these other markets where the barrier to entry isn't so high, and there's a pathway to do this. So you're making deals, doing deals out Midwest. You want to start bringing it closer to home. You're starting to amass a book of business. You're starting to amass capital, and you're able to make that transition now into the San Diego market. With that, the other side of your business is, for me, where the rubber really meets the road, is taking credit and being able to leverage that. For the listeners, I always look at credit in three different kind of buckets. There's, basically what is credit and how does it work? And then there's, once you know how it works, you're probably going to find, even those of us with the best credit scores, there are things you can do that are fairly benign that'll help you bolster your credit report and help you fix that. And then once you've gotten to that part, how do you put the credit to work, and how do you now unlock the responsible use of leverage to really supercharge your portfolio? So for the benefit of the audience, would you, Brandon, just kind of break it down for us, the whole thing with credit from the basics, then the services you guys provide? I know that you've got kind of two different platforms. One is like a credit repair, and then the next one is kind of a higher level, much more comprehensive credit course.
Yeah.
And then how do we put it to work? I think that'd be a huge value to the audience.
Yeah, no, it's so good. I appreciate it. Yeah, so we actually look at credit in like a four-step process. So
Okay.
number one is educate. So understanding how the lenders, the banks are actually judging you. So you are more educated to play the game, right? And then number two is fix. So fix your credit. A good majority of people out there, even if you have like a 800 FICO score, there's something normally that could be done just to spruce it up even just a little bit by updating personal identification information, and cleaning up some of the negative, misleading information that shouldn't be on there. After you fix credit, then the third step is build up credit. A lot of us can, just by adding authorized users, be able to build up your credit, boost up your score, take it from low 700s to 800 FICO score in a matter of 30 days or less, which
Wow.
is, yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's very life-changing for many people. At that same time, you can be building up business credit. I wish I would have treated my business. It's funny to think about now, like treat my business like a business from the very start and not have been using so much personal credit. If I would have got started and really, developed the business credit first, I would have been way further ahead because there's many things you can do with business credit, which is awesome. After you're done building, then that last step, that fourth step, is leverage it. So leverage it successfully. You don't want to be buying a bunch of Rolexes or something that's not an income producing asset, right? So we've done hard money lending with our credit in the past. It costs us 0% interest for a certain time frame, but we can lend it out on 3 to 4 month short term, secured by an actual physical asset. So that's been awesome. We've purchased properties with credit cards, and we complete all of our remodels on credit cards to be able to secure us, hedge any wedges, I guess, if any contractors do us wrong. So that's the security. Plus, we can build up enough points that after we're done doing a remodel, a project, we'll typically have enough points to be able to go on a free vacation, which is nice. There's a couple different things that we like to do with the leverage part, but that's kind of the gist of it in the 4-step process. The 2 different businesses that we have when it comes down to credit is one, we just started about a year ago. It's a do-it-for-you service for credit repair. And what that looks like is people can find more information on creditrepairmobile.com. And basically it's where we fix your credit in the matter of a couple months to be able to boost up your take all of the negative things off, and then afterwards we can coach you on how to be able to boost it up and leverage it successfully. We've helped out plenty of people with bankruptcies in 30 days, which has been awesome on one of our newest, and a bunch of late payments, collections, you name it, saving people. One of our best students or clients ended up saving a little over 100,000 in collections that they had just totally wiped off, that they don't owe anymore, which has been awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this, folks, is life-changing stuff that Brandon's talking about. That's not a pitch. Credit is the single most important thing that you have control over, that you can use to drive your portfolio. So if you don't mind, I'd like to go back and touch on those 4 points in just a little bit more detail, just to give the audience a little bit more of a taste of what they can expect when they reach out to you. So you started off with educate. How do the lenders judge you? Can you give us a little context? Just give us a little bit of the secret sauce of how do they judge you?
Of course, yeah. So there's actually 6 boxes that make up your FICO score. Many people aren't aware of this, and it's very important. There's 3 that are high impact, and then there's a medium impact, and then there's 2 that are low impact. So we'll just start, the high impacts. Payment history is one of the highest impacts. It's 35% of your FICO, meaning if you miss 1 late payment, it's going to hurt you drastically. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you see anywhere from 50 to 70 points dropped.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a serious note. That hurts you for the first year tremendously. Until it gets over 2 years, then it's a less impact. And then not until you hit later than 4 years is where it really makes a lot less of an impact on your FICO. However, lenders can still see it. So it doesn't look good, they get worried about it, but it's not hurting in score wise anymore after 4 years.
So 1 missed payment,
yep,
folks, if you're making those decisions, and we think when we're younger that these things don't come back to haunt you, 1 missed payment is compromised of 35% of your FICO score, and it's going to be on your credit report and negatively affect you for 4 years, but it's going to stay on your credit report for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot of number people, 1.
Yeah. A lot of people think that these just automatically fall off in a certain amount of years. Same thing with bankruptcies. Some people think that it's going that's the miss that we hear out there, or we get led by the courts. It's not going to fall off until you challenge it, until you push on them to actually remove certain things. So anything negative on your credit profile will hurt. And the most recent derogatory remarks are hurting you the worst, obviously.
So that's great intel, because we do hear that all the time. Yeah. People say, I might just file for bankruptcy. After a couple of years, you start over.
Yeah. And there are ways, even if somebody filed bankruptcy today, tomorrow I could start working on it to be able to get it removed, which is, a huge blessing for many people. But truthfully, I never recommend bankruptcy unless for one reason only. If you have a certain asset that the banks could end up taking from you, they could put a lien on, then yes, it makes sense to actually file bankruptcy to secure that asset so nobody can touch it.
Okay.
Besides that, I typically, that's like the worst of the worst case scenario. It's not needed. There's so many things that you could do prior.
So again, just to slow it down a bit for the listeners, what Brandon's talking about is if there's an event where the bank is pursuing a hard asset, your house, a piece of property, there are protections under the bankruptcy laws where you'll have to go in and file a reorganization plan and stick to a reorganization plan. But in that instance, as a last resort, he's advocating for, that's the time when, if you have no other alternatives, to consider bankruptcy. But if you're just looking to clear the decks because you think that in a year or two this is going to go away, that's not the case, and it's going to take a hell of a lot of hard work to try and just bring you back to par. All right, so that's the education component. What are some of the basics for fixing your credit? I mean, is it that simple? Can you really change things in 30 days on a credit report?
Of course, yeah. I mean, there's many things you can do, honestly. First and foremost, you can call up the three bureaus. You can challenge them over the phone. Otherwise, you can file disputes on cfpb.gov. What this is basically it's a federal type of monitoring service that ends up kind of as if you would think of it as like the parents of any type of banks, lenders, or the three bureaus. They're making sure that these guys are doing right by us, the clients. And so they have certain guidelines, certain regulations that all the lenders, the bureaus, and banks need to obey basically. And filing disputes on there, you can get a lot of negative things removed simply, in a matter of 15 days up to 60 days.
The next is building up the credit. Actually, now we're focused on raising the score. And what are some tips and tricks that folks can expect to find in your curriculum as far as building or boosting the score?
Yeah. So, the fastest way to really be able to boost up your score is authorized users. Authorized users affect 3 out of those 6 boxes that I was explaining. Those 3 are the utilization. You want to get your utilization to 9% or below for total credit line, credit used. And then your total accounts, they actually want to see you have 21 plus accounts. And they want to see mixed use, but mixed use, what that looks like is, personal credit cards, retail credit cards. We got student loans, mortgages, personal loans, and auto loans. Those are 6 different types right there. So, the old myth that you heard growing up, only have 1 or 2 credit cards. It's just not the case. That's not going to help you. You really want to have 21 plus accounts. It makes up 10% of your FICO.
2-1?
2-1, baby.
21 accounts.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people give me that same exact expression. Wow, that's a lot, right? It's very easy to do, honestly, if you have that mixed use out of the 6. And then that third box that makes up, that has an effect with authorized users is your average credit age. Now, a lot of people think, hey, what it is, it's the average of all your accounts in total. So they're going to add up all of your accounts, however much age that is, divide it by that many to see what the average is. Now, many people say like, well, if I'm at 5 years, how am I going to ever be able to get it higher? The ideal is 9 years plus for average credit age. Now, a way you can do to get it higher is by adding authorized users that are very old credit cards.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, I want to boost my credit, and I have a brother who
Yep.
has credit lines through credit cards that have been open and have been in use for 10 years. Now, I can ask my brother to put me on as an authorized user, and that would pick up. And when they see it on my credit report now, it would be viewed as if that was my history.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
So keep in mind, this is very caution right here. You want to make sure if you're ever added to somebody else's credit card as an authorized user, make sure that they've never had anything derogatory on that particular card. They could have bankruptcies, any other card messed up, beat up, busted and disgusted, right? But on this particular credit card that you're being added to, there can't be any late payments or derogatory remarks. Within the next 30 days or less, you being added on there is going to report onto your 3 credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. And it's going to report whatever that credit profile is on that card.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, all they need is your full name, your date of birth, and your social. So like a phone number or an address, the person that's adding you can actually put their information. So therefore, when they add you, it takes a couple minutes to add you. That new card is going to come to their home address with your name on it. They're going to call it, activate it, and then they can cut it up and throw it away. Therefore, you'll never have any access to the card. You don't know any of their security questions by calling in, trying to get a replacement. And it reports on the statement closing date every month.
So I've been in the business for almost 25 years, and I've thought I've heard all of the tips and tricks, but I have to say you're blowing me away here with some of these things. Essentially, folks, if you have access to someone that's willing to allow you to sign on to their account, and as Brandon said here, you don't have to even have access to the credit card. You never actually have to make a charge. But if you've got clean accounts, no derogatories, no late payments, no contested charges, none of that nonsense, you can get the benefit of that person's entire payment history on that respective credit card. That's pretty remarkable stuff, bro.
Yeah, it is, honestly. And it's a business, just so you know. Like, you can look online. There's 30 plus different companies out there that sell trade lines, credit card trade lines, authorized users.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, we have a business of it ourselves in-house because we have a lot of sellers in there. I made one seller last November, not this past November, the previous. We hit a record with him, $21,000 he made in 1 month. In 1 month, just by being a seller. I mean, it takes literally a few minutes to add somebody as an authorized user. And he had a lot of cards and he helped out a lot of people. You can add anywhere from usually 5 to 10 different spots, authorized user spots on your card. And it's a huge blessing to the other person. The only reason why people wouldn't want to do this is that they're just not educated. They believe that, adding somebody as an authorized user could hurt their score or their credit card. And the simple fact is that it can't hurt your credit card as the seller, but you could hurt theirs. If you end up missing a payment, or if you end up having a high utilization that month, or anything derogatory on your account, that could hurt the buyer. So, and they don't have any of your personal information. So it's really a very low risk and an easy way that you can make, your cards can be very valuable, and you can make some good money from them.
Wow. So Pete was chomping at the bit over here. It's like, I have a question. So his question was specifically what you answered toward the end there. And I just want to make sure I have this clear. So by me allowing Pete to go on as an authorized user on my account, because he's not getting the card, the act of adding him is not derogatory to me either?
No, it doesn't affect you whatsoever. It doesn't affect you whatsoever being the seller. By you adding somebody as an authorized user, it doesn't affect you at all.
So this is like a kick-ass way of picking up some passive income if you have good credit history.
Oh
So,
yeah, I mean, if you have some aged cards, and you know the older they are and the bigger credit line that you have on them, then the more valuable they are.
so can
Uh,
you give me an example of let's talk about a specific age of account, amount of total credit, type of balance you would want to see. I want to now pledge this credit as the seller of my credit. How do I get paid? Is it a one-shot deal? Is it monthly? And
yeah,
how does it work? Can you walk us through that?
yeah. So typically the buyer will lease it from the seller for about 2 months. This buys them enough time to, after somebody's credit profile is fixed and there's nothing negative on it, then they might be at 15 accounts. They need to get to 21 plus. So they need 6 more accounts. Their average age might be at 5. They need to get up to 9 years. So, and their utilization might be at 35%, which that's hurting them. So then they need more credit lines to be able to get it to 9% or below. That fixed credit profile will be in the low 700s, maybe mid 700s. After the authorized users are added, within less than 30 days, when the next statement closing date comes around, their credit score, their FICO, is going to get boosted up to 800, give or take. It could be a little higher, a little lower, because all 6 boxes are in the best possible shape they could be in. So at that point, it's your cards, adding certain people to the cards. It's worth money, and it can be anywhere from a couple $100 up to a couple thousand. It really just depends on the card, that what type of credit profile it looks like. How old is it? How much credit line does it have? And then within my group, we just keep it negotiable. So I connect the two people, and just make sure that they, can help each other out to create a win-win situation. Otherwise, online, there you get a set price, and that's what it is.
So, and I'm sorry I keep talking about this, but I'm like totally blown away here.
Fascinating,
So
isn't it?
it's unbelievable, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
these are the kinds of things that the podcasts, you and I never would have connected
Yeah.
otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And my audience never would have had the benefit of hearing this, or my clients, before there being a podcast, never would have had the benefit of hearing this. And I'm learning as we go. So is there so let's say I have I don't know, a MasterCard with a $50,000 credit limit, and
Yep.
I'm carrying a $4,000 balance. I'm allowed X amount of authorized users. Now, is it like a one-shot deal? Can you continue to rotate this? Someone goes on 2 months, they come off, someone else goes on. I mean,
Yeah, always. Yeah. So there's some tips and tricks along the way, but we typically don't recommend to add more than 3 authorized users per week.
per
So that's
week?
kind of, yeah, per week onto that particular card.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I mean, and you can do that, if you have 10 spots available, and you want to add 3 this week, another 3 the following week, and then just keep them on rotation. Realize that after 2 statement cycles pass and it reports, then you can remove that one individual. And you get that one payment from them. It helps them out, helps you out. It's literally 5 minutes worth of work, which is nice, to add somebody on to remove them as well. And usually the contract, it's an agreement that you're going to have, obviously, no late payments, nothing derogatory, and that your utilization stays at 9% or below, whenever the statement closing date is. Now, you could max out your card, use it as heavy as you want all throughout the month, but a couple days before that statement closing date, we really do encourage and highly ask that you pay it off in full, so it's a zero balance, to help out the buyer as much as possible, or at the very bare minimum, you have to have it at 9% or below.
So that's another misnomer I was always under the impression having a zero balance was bad. I was under the impression you always had to maintain a balance.
No, yeah. So that stuff breaks my heart too when people think that they need to pay interest. I've heard crazy stuff like that. That's not the case. If you're the type of person that always has a zero balance each and every month, then yes, I would encourage that you have a small balance that you leave on it when the statement closing date comes around. However, if you've just carried a balance for the last several months, or you are very used to doing that, I would highly encourage to try it out a couple months to get zero balance when the statement closing date comes around. That will help out. Also, keep in mind that if you don't use it, you lose it. You know that old saying, right? So make sure that at least once a year, if you have a big arsenal of credit cards like we do, then you want to make sure that you're making at least one purchase at the dollar store or something once a year to be able to keep it active and open so they don't shut it down.
This is amazing information, man. So is this info that they would find at the credit repair site or the Credit Counsel Elite site?
Yeah, so Credit Counsel Elite is our second business. That's my baby. I really love that. That's where we give you all the tips and tricks that we've learned over the years. We've been investing in ourselves for 5+ years into just the credit space, and we spent several six figures at this point to really network and connect with the best to learn all the ins and outs. So that's where they would learn a lot of this stuff. All four processes, deep diving into each one on creditcounselelite.com.
Amazing stuff. So you said something earlier, and I'm not sure if I misunderstood you, but you mentioned that you're taking monies, and we've all seen 0% financing for X amount of time, and then an interest rate kicks in down the road on credit cards, right? So are you actually taking money on these credit cards and then putting it out as hard money?
Yeah, we do. Yep. Yeah, there's ways, like, truthfully, we don't need to pay cash for anything except maybe tips here and there. For a majority, like there's certain websites like plastic.com that you can pay your bills, your mortgages with credit cards. And if you use the right credit cards, it will actually cover the fees plus some. So you get the protection plus you get reward points. So, and that adds up. There's many ways to do it, but yeah, we've purchased properties with cash that we liquidated from our credit cards. We complete all of our remodels the same. And then, yeah, we've done hard money lending as well. Remarkable,
man. So something that I'm particularly interested in, and I, was I was doing my homework. I said, I've got to come back and ask him about this. So we're always doing deals. We're always, looking to source different opportunities, and we're always looking to pull capital together to make the investments.
Sure.
You have on the description on one of your sites, it talks about being able to unlock on the personal and the business side up to 7-figure credit lines. So as an entrepreneur and as an investor who I do have excellent credit, we have done many deals. We're closing 3 deals this month that we're flipping out of. One of the hard things has been to come across a reliable, renewable source of capital, right? It's always at the mercy of the bank and what the opportunity is that is very, very, very influenced by the market at that particular time.
Sure.
How does a guy like me go and take a good history and take some companies that have been open for a very long time? Others are the single purpose LLCs that we turn in and out of. How do I get to that next level and unlock these credit lines that you're talking about of significant numbers?
Yeah, of course. So there's different levels to it, right? First and foremost, when we're talking about business credit, it's so crucial to have a very strong, solid foundation. And when I say foundation, you know, I'm talking SEO. So when a bank goes to search your company, they need to be able to find you everywhere. If they can't find you, or if it's not apples to apples, then there's a red flag. There's another red flag if they can, if your business name is hard to find, if it makes it a little bit difficult. Also, it's usually best for the business entity to be very broad, short, sweet, straight to the point, but broad, so that it's harder. It's not so specific. Like, you don't know. Take for example, like Target or Walmart. It's short, sweet. It's Target's better, easier to spell than Walmart, I guess you would possibly one would say. But when it comes down to, like, nobody knows. Obviously, you know the brand now, so it's hard to get Walmart out of your head. But before Walmart, like, if somebody told you Walmart, okay, like, what
Right.
is that? Is it a real estate company? Is it whatever? So you want to stay away from things like investments or properties or homes, or the whole nine, because there's, believe it or not, as much as you and I love real estate, there's some banks out there that are crazy and they think that it's more of a high risk. Same thing with the credit industry. They believe it to be a high risk. So understanding that first and foremost, then building out a very strong, solid foundation of your business. Afterwards, getting as many trade lines on there to report on all three of the business bureaus as possible. And within our course, we show you how to get 160 plus, and that's overkill, honestly. But once you get your first 10 trade lines reporting on all three, and $10,000 reporting on all three, you're really starting to prepare yourself and set yourself up within the first 90 days to be able to get out there and get some funding for your company. And obviously, the older, it might not be so obvious, but the older your corporation is, the more taxes that and cash flow that you have going through the business, the stronger it's going to be, the easier it's going to be able to get funding for your company.
And this is also information if I signed up for the Credit Counsel Elite program. That's
Correct.
where I'll be able to glean all this data.
Yeah, exactly. So we have three different main courses. We have the gold, platinum, and then elite. That our main courses on Credit Counsel Elite. Elite has the top course. Obviously, has the business credit in there. It has everything. But we also have a la carte. So some people just come to us and want to learn just credit repair, or come to us and just want to learn how to do a mass apply, to apply for 10 plus credit cards, get 6 figures plus in one day. And then others come to us just for business credit, and that's what we teach them.
So if can you give us just some vague idea of what the course cost is and how long the courses are?
Yeah. So we have courses anywhere from $800 up to $12,500. So it's a big expansion, but honestly, our top tier courses, all of them really, but our top tier course, we're giving out so much value that it should literally be anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 worth of content. A lot of other competitors out there that we've invested in just to see what they have, to make sure that we're not missing anything. And a lot of these guys, just being truthful with you, they're missing a lot of things, or they're teaching outdated stuff. And we're confident in ours because we see our clients getting the results. So it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot behind it that can help out a lot of people.
If you're able to walk folks like me through ways to tap into renewable, reliable credit lines,
Yeah.
I mean, $10,000 gets gobbled up in just the cost of doing business in one deal. I mean, that's really the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is pretty remarkable, man. I mean,
yeah, a lot of our competitors as well, they'll take a percentage of what they get you. You know, any of the do it for you services or other companies that really guide you along the way, they might charge less, but at the end of the day, they're walking away with a $20,000 or $50,000 or more check that just because they ended up kind of brokering with you to be able to get to your success, which still, it's a win-win for so many people because you're guaranteed, you know, the end results. We like to teach this stuff at, we believe a discounted rate, but it does come down to your mindset and how confident you are, not just in us, but yourself to be able to pull this off. You know, we give you the online, on-demand type of course that gives you everything, but then you also get access to me and then the group that we can mastermind together and make sure that, you know, we get you on the fast track to get taking care of your goals and make sure that you're on the right track.
And at the end of this course, theoretically, I should be able to be in a position where I can, and you guys will tell me how to go about applying for these lines of credit and where to make the applications and all that stuff.
100%. Yes.
Man, that is remarkable, man.
Yeah.
That is really remarkable. And at least over where we are, there's not many folks in this space that we're aware of. And a lot of this stuff, you know, again, I'm blown away. I'm a pretty seasoned, grizzled vet in the real estate game. But on the other side of it, on the credit side, this stuff is amazing. It's really remarkable.
No, I mean, just being very blunt and truthful, it's literally life-changing for so many people out there. And we've done our due diligence. Like we've gone through a lot of the headache out there so that our clients don't need to. Obviously doing anything for the first time, there's going to be a little bit of learning curves, but that's why we give that additional support, the one-on-one as well as group coaching, to make sure that we can handhold you as much as possible and that we can try to remove as much of those learning curves.
Amazing stuff. So you also wrote a book, Action Driven, How to Take Action Instead of Living with Regret.
Yeah. Yep. Right here.
There she is.
Yeah,
so
she is.
Can you talk about the inspiration behind the book? And is this something that you always wanted to do, or, you know?
No. Yeah. So like I said in the very beginning, you know, I'm very introvert. If I had the choice, the option to be in the spotlight or to be behind the scenes and blend in, you know where I'd be, right? But at the end of the day, you know, we all have a story, we all have a background, and I've been dealt a crazy hand, and I made a lot of stupid choices along the way. Like, by all means, God has blessed me in many different ways, 10 times over, and protected me as well. But, you know, I was encouraged by a mentor at the time to put my story out there. Like, you never know who you can help out and impact their life until you open your damn mouth and, you know, share your story. So that's what I did. You know, it was awesome. It was a big impact on a lot of people. We had certain connections that reached out to me, had heart-to-hearts, you know, just people that, without spilling their personal information, really changed their life. And I was never anticipating that. I was never expecting that. And this is no fluff. Like, it really did change and impact their life, with certain people that have bought 40 plus books now for all of their friends and family. Anybody they meet randomly, they're like, this book changed my life. You need to get your hands on it. And they'll just order it for them, you know?
So where do we find it?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. You guys can find it on Amazon, or if anybody's interested, you know, I'm, if you're like me, then you like a hardback book, and you can find it on Amazon. Otherwise, I'll give it to you guys all for free for the ebook. Just direct message me on Facebook Messenger or on Instagram. So Instagram, it's Brandon Elliott Investments, and then on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Brandon Elliott Investor. If you just message me and say, mention this podcast, then I'll send you the ebook.
That's a very generous offer. I'm certainly going to take you up on it.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely double back to you on the Credit Elite course. This is remarkable stuff. I can't thank you enough again for being as candid as you were, and for sharing what you've shared with us today. You've got an amazing story. It looks like you're just getting going, man. God bless you. And
thank you.
Really appreciate you joining us today. Before I let you go, what's the easiest way for folks to get a hold of you? Is it the email address you just gave, or?
Yeah, so usually on social media. I know that sounds crazy, but I do have a team that oversees the social media, as well as you'll find me replying back to certain people throughout the day whenever I can. But yeah, you can find it on there, or like I said, creditcounselelite.com. Or creditrepairmobile.com. You guys are more than welcome to reach out on any of those, and would love to connect with each and every one of you guys for sure.
Really appreciate it. Brandon Elliott, tremendous job, tremendous information. Really, really, really do appreciate what you shared with us today. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Just absolutely packed with great information. As always, please keep the questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, keep them coming. We love it all. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year, and stay safe.